What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of AC Reviews the World. I am your host, AC the Engineer, and we are at episode 132. Yes, 132. Hope everybody had a beautiful day today. It is Tuesday, February 17th, 2026, year of our Lord. And like always, we got a lot of things to talk about today. Now, remember, just to give a little housekeeping, if you ever disagree with anything I said, please leave a comment. I'm never going to say I know everything. I'm never going to say I'm always right. So please, let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion. But this is a show where we go over 4 topics, Monday through Friday, meeting around 6 o'clock. And today, we got 4 topics we're going to go over, but we're going to do one extra one because the Honorable Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. has died today. And it's a tragic situation. So that had to be the first thing we're going to be discussing today. And then we're going to do 4 other topics because there's a lot of news that we got to go over. So like I said, Reverend Jesse Jackson died today at 84 years old. He was an American civil rights movement hero and a 2-time presidential candidate. Walked hand in hand with Martin Luther King Jr. and did his very best to bring equal rights and to everyone. But let's get over into a video just to give us a little more information about this thing. It says he died peacefully in his sleep, so that's good to know. But let's get over into it and see what we can do.
Rights icon, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, whose towering presence and vision reshaped the Democratic Party and the country, has died at the age of 84. His family put this statement on Instagram. Our father was a servant leader, not only to our family, but to the oppressed, the voiceless, and the overlooked around the world. We ask you to honor his memory by continuing the fight for the values he lived by. CNN's Abby Phillip has a look at Jesse Jackson's life and legacy.
Jesse Jackson's life was defined by a relentless fight for justice and equality.
I was born in Greenville, South Carolina, in rampant radical racial segregation. I had to be taught to go to the back of the bus or be arrested.
Those early experiences drove Jackson to join the civil rights movement.
The fact is, against the odds, we knew there were great odds, we were winning.
In 1965, he began working for Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.
I learned so much from him, such a great source of inspiration.
King named Jackson to lead Operation Breadbasket in Chicago, an economic justice campaign for Black people. However, some say King was frustrated by Jackson's brashness and ambition.
I'm sure he thought I needed more time. I was 24 years old.
Both men were in Memphis in April 1968 to support striking sanitation workers. King and other civil rights leaders were staying at the Lorraine Motel.
He said, Jesse, you know, you don't even have on a shirt and tie. You don't even have on a tie. We're going to dinner. I said, Doc, it does not require a tie, just an appetite. We laughed. I said, Doc, and the bullet hit. Everything changed at that moment. It was a defining moment in the history of our struggle.
With King gone, his movement was adrift. Years later, Jackson formed Operation Push, pressuring businesses to open up to Black workers and customers and adding more focus on Black responsibility, championed in the 1972 concert Wattstacks.
In Watts, we have shifted from burn, baby, burn to learn, baby, learn.
And he expanded his own global reach too, helping to free U.S. Lieutenant Robert Goodman, who was held by Syria after being shot down, and later other Americans held in Cuba and Serbia.
I learned how to negotiate as an African American growing up among white people. You have to negotiate every day.
The Reverend set his sights on the White House in 1984.
Milking cows in Iowa, they're coming back to the inner cities. So I learned a lot during that period.
First thought of as a marginal candidate, Jackson finished third in the primary race with 18% of the vote. That campaign almost went off the rails when Jackson used an ethnic slur to refer to New York Jews.
There's mistakes and they hurt.
He ran again in 1988, this time doubling his vote count and finishing in second in the Democratic race.
Keep hope alive on tomorrow night.
At the time, it was the farthest any black candidate had gone in a presidential contest.
But 20 years later, when President Barack ran, we were laying the groundwork for that season.
In 2017, Jackson had a new battle to fight, Parkinson's disease. But that didn't stop him.
If you hold on, if your cause is right and your grip is tight, you'll make it.
Late in life, he was still fighting. He was arrested in Washington while demonstrating for voting rights. His silent presence at the trial of Ahmaud Arbery's killers prompted defense lawyers to ask that he leave the courtroom. Jackson stayed.
I am somebody. I am somebody.
From the Jim Crow South through the turbulent 60s and into the Black Lives Matter movement, Jesse Jackson was a constant, unyielding voice for justice.
A great man. And we will always remember him. Or hopefully, the world will.
May his memory be a blessing. That was CNN's Abby Phillip reporting. She even wrote a book about Jesse Jackson. Reverend Jackson is survived by his wife, Jacqueline, their children, grandchildren, and extended family. Joining us today in the group chat, Jeff Zeleny, CNN Chief National Affairs Correspondent, Chuck Rocha, Democratic strategist and former advisor to Bernie Sanders' presidential campaigns, and Ashley Davis, former White House official under President George W. Bush. Jeff, I want to start with you. You actually just finished reading Abby's book, A Dream Deferred, and we were talking about how Jesse Jackson served as sort of the bridge from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he was his protege, to President Obama, to present day. I mean, he kept fighting till the very end.
There's no doubt about it. And the towering legacy and figure that Jesse Jackson is unparalleled in America's 20th century. Barack Obama would not have been elected as the first black president in America without Jesse Jackson. Not because they had a close relationship, they did not. It was stressed, it was filled with tension. Their family did, but this is why. Because Jesse Jackson, through his 1984 a bid for president, and 1988, a candidacy for president. He literally changed the Democratic Party and changed the way Democrats elect their presidents. Gone are the smoke-filled back rooms at party conventions where the candidate was decided, but Jesse Jackson opened up that process through making it a delegate fight. And Barack Obama seized upon that in 2007 and 2008 and built a grassroots campaign that was basically the modern day version at the time of what Jesse Jackson did, particularly in 1988. So he paved the way for that. But so much more. He literally was the bridge between the two. But to Barack Obama, as I think back to covering him during my time in Chicago, he moved to Chicago in part because he wanted the black American political experience, and Jesse Jackson was that in Chicago. He left Memphis after Dr. King's assassination, and Jesse Jackson was there, and he moved to Chicago to start the Rainbow Push Coalition, really building the broad-based modern Democratic Party. And as Chuck knows well, without Jesse Jackson, a very similar message to what Bernie Sanders did in his campaign in 2016 and 2020, economic justice, really building a broad-based coalition. So the through lines there are so important. Jesse Jackson's his fingerprints are on our politics right now at the moment as well.
Yeah.
And let me build off what Jeff said, because it's really, really important, because Democrats need to remind themselves today, as we live in the Trump presidency, about what Jesse Jackson did. He went out as a black man and talked to poor white farmers. He went out and talked to union members about keeping jobs in America. He started building a coalition, to Jeff's point, before Barack Obama, about bringing together black, brown, and poor white people to say, look, it's not left versus right, it's up versus down. And he was the one who really started that in a day when, in the back rooms, the smoke-filled rooms that Jeff talked about, was where the power lays. And some would say, I would even might say, that some of that power has re-emerged when we should get back to what Jesse Jackson used to talk about, which is the workers and the Workers' Party.
Because in an interesting way, President Trump has kind of gotten a lot of that coalition, especially in this past election, from increasing his black voters, but also the poor white people that just feel like the government does not help them anymore and they've lost their way. But I have a question. So I haven't read her book yet. I know you both have, but what?
I mean, I think we got enough of the gist of everything, but Jesse Jackson paved the way for a lot of the things we have privy to today. He fought hard when some people didn't believe in him. Some people cussed at him, spit at him, tried to kill him. He was hand in hand with Martin Luther King Jr. when he was assassinated. These are the great people who strive to create a better society. And I am happy to have grown up with his influence and just influence of many great people who have spent their lives trying to make this world a better place. So hopefully everybody understands how much Jesse Jackson did for us. I didn't even know, which I guess is ignorant of me. I didn't even know I knew he ran for president, but I didn't know it was how powerful and how much it paved the way for Barack Obama. It's a sad day for the American people. Sad day for Black people, Black Americans. But let me know your thoughts on this situation. Do you have any stories? Do you know him? Is your family? Has your family even close to him? Tell me any experiences you might have had or what you know about it. But this is something we had to bring up first because he did die today, 84 years old. He was born 1941. But let me know your thoughts on that whole thing, y'all. We got to pray for his family. But it was time for him to go home. But we're going to pivot over to our next topics. Now we're going to get into our 4 topics that we need to discuss today. And the first topic we're going to go over today is we're going to go back over to the Rhode Island hockey rink shooting. So we got more details about the killer. We got more details about the father or the transgender dad who ended up killing his ex-wife and his son. So we're going to go over that. We also got video from inside of the ice rink to where it looks like you can hear the gunshots and people scattering. So we'll look at that as well. But let's get over into it and see what we can make of this whole crazy situation. We got a few videos to look at, and then we'll go over into the AI breakdown. So let's get into it.
A crazed shooter armed with multiple guns, who posted online threats to, quote, go berserk, and whose own reported daughter claims had, quote, mental health issues and was very sick. Who was Robert Dorgan, the trans father who fatally opened fire during a Rhode Island high school hockey game? Chaos erupted during a hockey tournament at Lynch Arena in Pawtucket, Rhode Island on February 16th, when gunshots rang out from the stands around 2:30 p.m., causing families and players to scramble for safety. Harrowing live stream video captured the unfolding chaos as clumps of spectators sprinted to the exit as approximately 11 gunshots were fired from the stands. Many players on the bench pushed to squeeze out of the box, with some ditching their skates in the process. Others vaulted over the barrier surrounding the rink and headed straight for the locker room. 2 people were killed during the heinous massacre, and 3 others were critically injured in what police described as a targeted family dispute. The shooter was later identified as Robert Dorgan, a 56-year-old father whose son was a North Providence High School senior that was competing in the hockey tournament. Dorgan, who was trans and went by the female alias Roberta Esposito, died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound at the scene. Officials said Dorgan fatally shot one of his own sons and the boy's mother. According to a GoFundMe page, Dorgan's 23-year-old son Aiden and his ex-wife Rhonda were confirmed as the victims who were killed. Investigators are also still probing a motive for the bloodshed, but court documents show that the father's transgender identity appeared to be a source of multiple family court battles in the years prior. According to filings obtained by WPRI, Dorgan's ex, Rhonda, filed for divorce from the crazed shooter back in 2020, citing his, quote, narcissistic and personality disorder traits and his gender reassignment surgery. Rhonda later amended the reasoning for their split, which was finalized in 2021, blaming it on, quote, irreconcilable differences, which have caused the immediate breakdown of the marriage. Police believe Dorgan was intentionally targeting his own family when he opened fire in the stands and then killed himself. A woman spotted leaving the Pawtucket police
What? Let's keep going.
Station in the wake of the shooting identified herself as the gunman's daughter, confirming that her father had mental health issues.
My father was a shooter.
What happened?
He shot my family. He has mental health issues.
Any idea why you would have done this?
He's sick. He's very sick.
The night before the bloodshed, the 56-year-old dad, who underwent gender reassignment surgery in 2020, also made an ominous post on X. In response to a post calling trans Democratic Representative Sarah McBride a man, Dorgan wrote, "Keep bashing us, but do not worry why we go berserk." Dorgan also posted a similar response to a post from conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. In other X posts, Dorgan offered his support for the Second Amendment and ICE and his disdain for abortion. Dorgan also appeared to be a Nazi sympathizer and had a history of spewing anti-Semitic and racist rhetoric on social media, making repeated references to white power and white pride worldwide in several post replies.
Oh, hold on. It's kind of hurting my brain. So we got a transgender dad who's also a Nazi sympathizer, white supremacist. All this stuff just not, to me, doesn't go together, but let's keep going.
The day before his rampage at the hockey rink, Dorgan posted an anti-Asian slur as he replied to a video praising Adolf Hitler. One photo posted online even showed Dorgan brandishing a large SS symbol tattoo on his right arm, a reference to Hitler's secret police force. Pawtucket Police Chief Tina Goncalves praised a Good Samaritan who she said stepped in and attempted to subdue Dorgan. Witnesses said the man, the father of another hockey player, disarmed Dorgan, but he had a backup firearm, both of which police retrieved at the scene.
Crazy scene, y'all. Now, this is a lot to take in. Why? The daughter says mental health. We don't know about that. But I still would... Let's go over into the next video. Hopefully it gives us more information to think about.
From Rhode Island, this terrible story. 3 people dead, including the attacker, after a shooting at a youth hockey game that was captured on camera. The shooting happened in Pawtucket, a few miles outside of Providence, yesterday afternoon. 3 more in critical condition at the hospital. Alexis McAdams has more on this. And the gunman. Alexis, good morning.
Bill, good morning. Yeah, this just keeps unfolding and the details are shocking and really tragic. There was just chaos inside of this ice rink out in Rhode Island during a high school hockey game after one of the hockey parents in the crowd pulled out a gun and opened fire, shooting members of his own family. Watch. You can hear the gunshots there just erupting. You can hear the echo inside of that indoor hockey rink out there in Pawtucket. And then what you see in that video is that people are running for cover there. They're trying to get off the ice. They're ducking and trying to get out of the way. Investigators have identified Robert Dorgan as the shooter. So I want to walk you through what we know about him. Just take a look here at this picture. This is from his social media profiles. They say
I'm about to say that's a wild picture.
He also went by Roberta, so Roberta Dorgan. And sources tell Fox he was dressed in women's clothing when he showed up to his son's hockey game yesterday afternoon. These pictures you're looking at are from months ago, Bill, but witnesses and people we've talked to who were at this hockey game say that this was something that happened pretty often where he would show up in women's clothing. So according to documents obtained by our affiliate WPRI, Dorgan had a history of family disputes. So let's get into them. Some involving conflict over his gender identity because he had gender reassignment surgery back in 2020. So WPRI reports that in these court documents, his trans identity led to the divorce with his ex-wife, reportedly detailing, she said, that he had narcissistic and personality disorder traits along with the transition. So his social media profile's under investigation. I want to point this out. Just one day before he opened fire, he was defending trans Congresswoman Sarah McBride. He wrote this in part on X: "Keep bashing us, but do not wonder why we go berserk." So they're looking into all of these things on social media. As investigators say, it was a targeted attack. That's one thing they know for sure. Sources telling Fox it was a dispute within this family that led to the tragedy. So the gunman shows up, kills his ex-wife and one of his own kids at the hockey game. Police say 3 others are in the hospital fighting for their lives. And there really could have been more people that were killed, but a good Samaritan stepped in and tried to take this gunman down. Watch.
Police were on scene within a minute and a half of that call. A good Samaritan stepped in and interjected in this scene, and that's probably what led to a swift end of this tragic event.
And so what we know right now is that the mayor has said so far, Bill, they've interviewed dozens, maybe more than 100 people. They're going to look at all the different video and pieces together. The question is, how many weapons did this gunman have? We know at least one, and it could have been a lot worse if this other person at the game wouldn't have stepped in and taken that shooter down. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Story, and all caught on camera too.
Terrible.
Alexis, thank you for that.
And Paul Morrow is still with us. Can you give us a sense of, well, I know that you're a hockey guy.
Yeah.
You grew up on the rink, your nephews play on the rink, and it's hard for all parents to watch what happened.
Yeah, very, very tough. I would say a couple of things. There's some reporting that he had more than one gun. I go to the guns because one of the things we always hear is red flag laws, all right? People who are mentally ill, and by the way, strong Second Amendment advocates agree with that. Crazy people shouldn't have guns. That's how somebody recently put it to me, who's very active in that community.
Understand.
This person, by their own daughter's statements after this event, was severely mentally ill and yet had these weapons. And, you know, look, not all trans people are shooters. Nobody is saying that. But at some point, we're going to have to accept the evidence here that there's something going on with the medication that is involved in transitioning that creates this kind of anger and disassociation. And I'm sorry, but the fact that you have red flag laws means that you need to use them. And this guy very clearly was telegraphing in bright red lights. Problem. I'd like to know if the guns were legal, how we got them. That should be a line of inquiry here.
Fair question.
Now, I don't know if we can blame it on the medication that trans people use. But yes, there has been several trans people shootings, school shootings as well, that Canada shooting, and just other shootings all around that have dealt with, that have killed people. Now, I don't know if we can specifically blame it on their drugs that they are taking, but mentally ill people can do horrible, crazy things. That's all I can say, but let me know your thoughts. We're going to go over to this next video. We're just going to watch because we actually got the security footage.
This game was being live streamed. It was a game at the Dennis Lynch Arena in Pawtucket where there was a shooting today. 3 people are dead, including the gunman. And we want to take a look at this. We can hear the shooting. This is being live streamed today. Let's listen. And then you see the students getting off the ice, running for cover. This is at Dennis Lynch Arena in Pawtucket about 2:30 this afternoon. I'm very familiar with this arena because my son played here. They're going over to the locker because the lockers are on that side. So
scattering, which is understandable. This is a crazy situation. Now let's go over to the AI breakdown just so we can get a little bit more information about this. So as we know, on February 16th, a targeted shooting occurred during a high school boys hockey game in Lynch Arena in Pawtucket. The gunfire broke out around 2:30 p.m. during a senior night. 2 adults were killed, 3 others were critically injured. One deceased has been identified as the shooter's ex-wife, and the son of the shooter also reported among the victims. Authorities have identified it as Robert, 56-year-old, and an employee of a General Dynamic Bath Iron Works. He died at the scene of a apparent self-inflicted gun wound. So we know about a good Samaritan. So investigators believe the shooting stemmed from a long-standing domestic dispute. Court records indicate that he had family conflicts, including a 2021 divorce and disputes related to his gender identity. No student athletes, coaches were physically injured in the shooting. They are temporarily suspended all games. There's a lot to take in about this whole situation. But one question, like they was talking about, do you think that the drugs that the transgenders are using after their gender affirming surgeries is causing this? It's causing them to react. I don't think that we can just blame it on the drugs. I think there's a lot of mentally ill people. I think there's a lot of crazy people out there that we have to make sure that they don't have access to guns, of course. And then make sure that we are appropriately punish or house people who commit something like this. No matter what it is, it's a tragic situation. I would like to know why he shot them up, but he was going through some mental problems. So it might not be a clear reason of why he was upset and wanted to kill both his ex-wife and his own son. It's a tragic situation no matter how you look at it. But let me know your thoughts on this whole thing, y'all. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. What are your thoughts on this whole thing? There's been a lot of shootings dealing with transgender people. Are the drugs a problem? Are the drugs a problem? But we're going to pivot over into the next topic we're going to be discussing today. There's more things that just make you want to make sure you keep your head on a swivel. So we got a slashing. A man slashes a random teen's throat. Yeah, this popped up on my recommendeds that I just had to talk about. And it looks like the families are questioning because it seems like he was released from jail. So I don't know anything about that, but that's what the video said. So we're going to go over into it. We got 2 videos to look at. And then we'll get into the AI breakdown of this whole crazy thing. But let's get over into it and see what we can find out about it.
Our top story tonight, take a look at this one. A teenager has their throat slashed in a random attack. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm John Brown.
Good evening. I'm Luann Sorrell. This all happened right by the Daytona Beach Pier. And this man is accused of attacking that boy. Fox 35's Bailey Bockover is joining us live now in Daytona Beach. So, Bailey, you spoke to that teenager and his parents tonight.
Yeah, the 13-year-old says he was just trying to walk back to his hotel Saturday night. The suspect came out of nowhere and slashed the teen's throat.
As soon as we realized what happened, I could see his neck gashed wide open. I could see all the way down to the meat.
13-year-old Sullivan Clark was on his phone walking with his parents near the slingshot ride when police say Jermaine Long walked up and slashed his throat. His mom, Lori, initially thought it was a robbery.
I thought he was stealing Sully's phone. As soon as he slashed him, I yelled. I said, "Hey."
Sullivan's father, Jared, says the sight was something he can never unsee.
The doctor told him 1 millimeter deep, and we'd be having a different conversation.
Sullivan says a split-second glance at a boardwalk ride is likely the only reason he survived.
The crazy thing is, I turned at the perfect time because I was on the phone and I happened to be looking up at like the slingshot and I turned. And that's how he got the side of my neck and not right here.
Police say they found Long hiding near the overpass on the pier and arrested him. Andrew Walker, who works nearby, says he talked to the suspect just minutes before the attack.
I see the man come down in cuffs, and I was just like blown away because that's the same dude I just seen walking past that just stabbed somebody in the neck.
Sullivan tells me he just wants to look at his attacker and ask why he did it. But police say so far there's absolutely no motive for this unprovoked attack. Live in Daytona Beach.
Now, this is a crazy situation. I can't see any reason why a man would just randomly slash a kid's throat other than something's wrong in his head. But let's get over into this next video.
I'm Molly Reed, your Volusia County community correspondent. We're following up now on a shocking case out of Daytona Beach where police say a 13-year-old boy was randomly attacked with his throat slashed at the Daytona Beach boardwalk. Now that suspect, Jermaine Long, is in the jail now here, and he will not be leaving anytime soon as the judge gave him no bond. That's something the victim's family pushed for after learning about his criminal history prior to this attack. Now the mother of the victim reached out to our newsroom on Monday telling us what happened while they were on their ride home to South Florida. Now that they're home safely, they're also sharing their story.
Tons of people at the Slingshot. Yeah, it well lit. We felt safe.
What was supposed to be a fun annual trip to Daytona for the 500 took a sharp turn for the worse.
My son was somebody cut his throat.
Lori and Jared Clark say Saturday night their family was walking the boardwalk and stopped to watch the Slingshot ride. Lori took this photo of her son Sullivan just a minute before things went wrong. Out of nowhere, they say, a man identified as Jermaine Long quickly walked up to Sullivan.
It made this motion. And so I thought he was stealing the phone, and I yelled at him, and then I ran after him. And then when I turned around, I realized, no, my son was cut.
Sullivan's neck was slashed. He was rushed to the hospital where he got 13 stitches.
1 more millimeter, and he, probably wouldn't have made it.
Long was caught by police a street over. Video shared with News 6 shows his arrest. He's charged with aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. He faced a judge for another first appearance in this case today. He was given bond the first time, but this time,
going to be ordering that you be held without bond.
Long is a registered sex offender and has a lengthy criminal history in Volusia. Most recently, he was arrested in January for allegedly trying to hurt 2 men with a knife and then hit them with a large pole. Prosecutors dropped the charges, though, and he was released from jail just 4 days before the incident with the Clark family. As for the family trip, the Clarks say they got what they ultimately came for, going to the big race.
His neck was hurting, but he really wanted to go, so I tried to keep things as normal as possible. I said, let's go.
Now I'm going to keep pushing police and prosecutors for answers as to why Long was able to walk free after this previous incident. As for this case, we're told he still has not given investigators a motive. I'm your Volusia County community correspondent.
So he attacks 2 men with a knife and an 8-foot-long pole. For some reason, the prosecution drops the charges. Could have been they didn't read him his rights. We don't know. We don't know the reason why they dropped the charges. But then he was released 4 days before, and he goes out and slashes a teen in his throat. His teen's throat. Could have killed him if he didn't turn his head at the right time. Let's go over into the AI breakdown just to get a little bit more information about this whole thing. So, as we know, on February 14th, a 13-year-old boy named Sullivan was the victim of a random, unprovoked attack near Daytona Beach Pier in Florida. While walking with his parents on the boardwalk, a man he did not know approached and slashed his throat. Clark survived a life-threatening injury because he happened to look at a nearby ride. Police arrested Jermaine, 44, shortly after the attack near the pier overpass. Witnesses reported Long appeared calm and acted like nothing was happening following the incident. Long has been charged with aggravated battery and is currently being held in jail without bond. I wonder why aggravated battery and not attempted murder. Let me know your thoughts on that. A local worker noted that he had a brief friendly conversation with the suspect just minutes before. Sullivan was hospitalized but is currently recovering from the attack. Why not attempted murder? Because that sounds like attempted murder to me, if anything. So while the specific reasoning of the attorney has not been publicly detailed, the decision to charge Jermaine with aggravated battery with a deadly weapon instead of attempted murder is likely due to the high legal burden of proving intent to kill required under Florida law. Slashing someone's throat just sounds like that's enough evidence to me to be like, oh yeah, he tried to kill him. Because I guess I'm not the lawyers or anything like that, but let me know your thought. So it says, under Florida statute, the choice to choose often depends on the following factors: proving intent to kill, the nature of the act, charging as a strategy. So, and then also there's different case-specific factors, defendant statements, criminal history. He's a convicted sex offender with violent history, including battery and sexual assault. The history is currently being used to keep him held without bond, regardless of charges. Good. Because if they would have they can't let him back out. There's no way. What about his past? So let's hear about his past arrest, because that's the main thing that's driving this. 4 days after, Solong was released from the county jail on February 10th, 2026, just 4 days before he allegedly slashed the 13-year-old's throat. So his January 2024 arrest, he was jailed due to a January 2024 incident where he was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and battery. In that case, he was allegedly attacked 2 men. He was a registered sex offender, and he was convicted of a third-degree sexual assault of a child in October 14, 2026 in Douglas County, Nebraska. And other charges he has is battery, theft, drug possession, and trespassing. His extensive history was cited in a pretrial detention motion filed by the prosecutors to ensure his remain without bond. Good. I love hearing these crazy crimes and crazy criminals who should be held without bond. I like that. But this is a crazy situation, y'all. Let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about that? 4 days after. So where's that word statement at? One more time. 4 days after he was released from jail. 4 days before he slashed that 13-year-old's neck. Absolutely tragic situation. I'm happy that he survived, because in my thoughts, that's attempted murder. That's in my thoughts, but let me know your thoughts on that whole situation, y'all. Do you think he should have been charged with attempted murder? Slashing someone's neck just outright just sounds like that's not much to prove there. He slashed at his throat with a knife. But hey, the prosecutors got their own ideas about stuff, and I would hope they're thinking right and doing the right thing, doing the best for the child, the victim. But absolutely crazy, y'all. Let me know your thoughts on that situation. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. We're going to pivot over into the next topic we're going to be discussing today, and it's one that happened a few days ago. But we have a daughter who was killed over an argument about Trump. Yeah, it looks like a father killed his daughter. I don't know who was advocating for or against. Let's go over into the video. We got a few videos to look at, and then we'll go into the AI breakdown, of course. But let's get over into this, because this is a crazy statement. But I guess this is the world we are living in now, where a father would kill his daughter over a disagreement. But let's get into it. Let's see what we can make of this situation.
An investigation in the UK just wrapped up, concluding the death of a British citizen here in North Texas was unlawful.
Lucy Harrison was shot in the chest. It happened in January of 2025. Her father told police his gun accidentally fired and hit her. The Collin County DA's office declined to comment on the case, but there were no charges. Fox 4's Amelia Jones has more on the case, making headlines here and abroad. Amelia.
Heather, Casey, gun laws in the U.S., specifically here in Texas, are very different from England. In regard to the police investigation, no criminal charges were filed and no arrests were made. However, since the victim was a UK citizen, she's entitled to an investigation according to the law in England and Wales. In the UK report released this week, based off of the evidence, that report found 23-year-old Lucy Harrison's death an unlawful killing. In January 2025, 23-year-old Lucy Harrison came to visit her dad in Prosper. The UK native never returned home. She was shot in the chest inside her father's home and died at the hospital.
Okay.
Body camera footage shows what her father, Chris Harrison, told Prosper police that day.
Getting ready to go to the airport and we were talking about guns, and she said, "You got a gun?" I said, "Yes." I got it out and it just went off as she stood there. Like, as I pulled it out, it went off.
The Prosper Police Department told Fox 4 after it completed its investigation, it sent it to the Collin County District Attorney's Office for further review. A grand jury issued a no bill on the case. No arrests were made and no charges were filed. But overseas, a coroner's office was also conducting an inquest, a sort of fact-finding process, into the death of Lucy Harrison since she was a citizen of the UK. The report released Wednesday raised concerns about his alcohol use that day and said he took no steps to even familiarize himself with the weapon to enable him to check it was safe. The coroner concluded her death was a tragic accident, but also unlawful.
They specifically say that they are.
So you know, I'm not gonna stop too much. So basically, he should have been charged with manslaughter. That seems reasonable to me. If you handle a gun, your gun, and for some reason, well, unless it's faulty and they prove it's faulty, if it goes off while you're holding it because you're not properly handling it, and you kill somebody, I can completely see manslaughter, but they might have been able to prove that the weapon itself was faulty.
Applying the laws of England. And so, you know, it's kind of like if this event were to happen there, then the outcome may be different.
Russell Wilson is a former Dallas County prosecutor. He notes accidental deaths are prosecuted on a case-by-case basis, and not all result in criminal charges.
Regardless, the person responsible has to live with the consequences of their actions, whether they're labeled criminal or civil or, you know, or nothing at all.
Texan laws on guns are so different to England.
Lucy Harrison's mother addressed the press after the coroner's inquest was released.
It results in too many deaths in the USA. Furthermore, it is mine and Sam's strongly held view that the US investigation led by the Prosper Police Department lacked the rigour and scrutiny you'd expect if this had happened in the UK. Lucy deserved better.
In our conversation, Russell Wilson said it's unlikely that the UK will pursue a criminal trial because the shooting happened here on U.S. soil, and it is the local law enforcement that takes the lead in terms of prosecution. However, the case can move forward in the civil courts, and civil lawsuits can be filed. We did reach out to Chris Harrison for any comment or statement, but we have not heard back.
Now, this is a crazy situation. Let's go over to this next video where we actually get to see the full body cam footage they was mentioning.
No. So what's that? She was just about to go to the airport.
Who is she to y'all?
That's our daughter. Okay. It's my daughter.
Okay.
And we were getting ready to go to the airport, and we were talking about guns, and she said, "You got a gun?" I said, "Yes." I got it out, and it just went off as she stood there. As I pulled it out, it went off.
Okay.
It must have been, obviously.
Did you put the gun on the bed?
I put it on the bed straight away, yeah.
Where was it at?
It was in the bedside cabinet.
Okay, you have like a little, you just keep it in there?
In a locked box, Okay. And we took it out to look, and just as I picked it up, it went off.
Okay. Ma'am, I'll have you step over here, and we'll all come over here. Okay.
Sorry.
Are they involved?
Can somebody go?
Yeah, we'll get it figured out. I got you. Yep. Here, I just want to, so if they have to come out, because there's like
because
9.
They were about to go back to England, so she's not even.
She's not going there.
Okay.
Now, let me say this. Just from how his reaction is, I would think that I would be more distraught. That's just me. But he could be in shock. It could be a lot of instances why he's acting like this. But I think I would be truly distraught and barely even able to understand what I did or how to react. I might just be frozen in a state of grief for what I just did. But everybody reacts differently to intense situations.
Is this her boyfriend?
Boyfriend. Okay.
Baylor Scott White, please hear it. Making me all three.
Yep, we got it. More than likely, honestly, she's probably going to go to Plano. Based on the injury. It'll be THR Plano. Okay. More than likely. I'll tell you here shortly.
Do you know if she's breathing or?
I'm not 100% sure. Okay. So, okay. Hey, Lucy. Can somebody come in?
Today's outcome has finally given Luce her voice back after what has been an unrelenting year of deep shock, grief and fight. Fight with quiet yet focused, steely determination to allow Lucy to speak her truth in the only way that she now can. At an inquest, whilst we recognise that an unlawful killing outcome has been decided in a coroner's court and not a criminal one, we welcome the coroner's conclusion and thank her for exploring all of the evidence fairly, as fully as she could, and fearlessly for Lucy.
Now at 4 o'clock.
Now this is a tragic situation. Let's go over into the AI breakdown just to get a little bit more information about this whole thing. Let's get over into it. So, as we know, in January 2025, Lucy Harrison, a 23-year-old British woman, was fatally shot in the chest by her father, Chris Harrison, during a visit to his home in Texas. The shooting occurred on the same day the two had a big argument regarding President-elect Donald Trump. The argument, according to testimony from Lucy's boyfriend, the pair argued about Trump's sexual assault allegations. When Lucy asked how he would feel if she had been a victim, her father reportedly replied that it wouldn't upset him as much because he had two other daughters. The shooting later that day, Chris Harrison took Lucy into his bedroom to show her a Glock 9mm handgun. He claimed the weapon discharged accidentally as he lifted it. So Harrison, a recovering alcoholic, admitting to relapsing that day and drinking white wine before the shooting. So Texas grand jury. So in June 2025, a Collin County grand jury declined to indict Chris Harrison and no criminal charges were filed against the United States. So the UK inquest, this is where, so in February 2026, a British court ruled the death in unlawful killing. Senior coroner Jacqueline concluded that Harrison had pointed the gun at his daughter at chest height and pulled the trigger, describing his action as grossly negligent and reprehensible. That is crazy now. Think about that. Because anybody who's trained with guns know that no matter if it's loaded, unloaded, anything, you never point the gun at someone. That is just a common thing for people who know how to handle guns. You never point the gun at someone. Loaded or not, you just want to get into that habit. You never put your hand on the trigger. But he's saying that it just fired, basically it just went off. I would like to know if they looked at the gun itself to see if it was malfunctioning, if it just goes off. Or did he accidentally put his hand on the trigger and pull it while pointing it at her chest? That's why I'm thinking manslaughter I could understand manslaughter. But this is a crazy situation. It's a tragic situation. I still think I would have been more distraught, or it's a tragic situation. But at the end of the day, let me know your thoughts. He's not going to be charged because you can't be charged again for the same crime. So he's never going to be charged in the United States for this. But let me know your thoughts on this whole situation. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. An argument over Trump. He says some crazy things, and then he goes into the room to show him the gun. Absolute crazy situation. Y'all let me know your thoughts on it, and let me know if you disagree with anything I said. We're going to pivot over into the last topic we're going to be discussing today. And it's more of just an informational thing and a question I had. So a video popped up on my recommendeds, basically explaining how a slavery exhibit, so a former judge ordered that the National Park Service immediately restore a slavery exhibit at the presidential house in Philadelphia. Now, this all took place because Trump wanted to basically remove the executive order that restoring truth and sanity to the American history, where he wanted to remove content that administered that deem decisive or race-centered ideology. But let's get over into the videos. We got a few videos to look at, and then we'll go into this AI breakdown, just thinking about understanding a little bit more about it. But let's get over into it and see what we can make of this whole situation.
Now at 4 o'clock, in order to restore, a judge has issued a preliminary injunction now requiring the Trump administration to reinstall that slavery exhibit at the President's House site on Independence Mall. It is Monday afternoon. I'm Brian Taff.
And I'm Tamala Edwards in for Sarah Bloomquist. The big story on Action News is that ruling today on the controversial removal of those panels at the President's House. A federal judge sided with the city of Philadelphia and advocacy groups who took the Trump administration to court over the exhibit's removal.
Yeah, Action News reporter Taronda Thomas was right there when activists got word of that ruling today. She's live now at the site with more on the order today and reaction to it. Taronda.
Brian, just a couple of weeks ago, across the street there in federal court, a judge started hearing this case, which has brought a lot of protests from people who want to see the President's House restored. One of those protests is happening right now, a group of young people gathering at that site, which you can see has been stripped of the panels that were once there. Today, the judge sided with organizations like this one protesting and the city of Philadelphia, ordering that the President's House be restored. What started as a protest ended as a celebration.
I have great news. We just won in federal court.
A crowd of people gathered to demand the President's House be restored to reflect the stories of enslaved people kept by George Washington, and a federal district court judge agreed.
The fact that the judge granted the preliminary injunction is a tremendous victory. When I say tremendous, that's actually an understatement. It's historic.
The judge ordered that panels with stories of the enslaved be put back on the walls, and that the President's House be restored to the way it looked before January 22nd. That's the day the panels were taken down after an executive order from the Trump administration. The city of Philadelphia filed a lawsuit saying the government had no right to take down the panels because of a cooperative agreement between the government and the city. Lawyers for the Trump administration argued that cooperative agreement expired in 2010, but the judge says a survival clause in the agreement makes certain parts of it still valid. Her 40-page decision also adds that the federal government cannot take any further action to damage the panels or change anything else at the site. The judge made her decision after visiting the site.
Once she saw the panels, once she came to the site, I was confident she was going to do the right thing.
Avenging the Ancestors Coalition joined in the city's lawsuit, which stated that removing the panels would cause irreparable harm. The judge noted that the city of Philadelphia contributed millions of dollars to building the President's House, and that removing the stories of slavery means, quote, the city of Philadelphia is deprived of the ability to honestly and accurately tell the story of its own history. That history soon to be restored by the judge's decision.
Better than fighting the good fight is winning the good fight, and today we won.
Now, the judge did have some strong words in her decision. She said, quote, each person who visits the President's House and does not learn of the realities of founding era slavery receives a false account of this country's history. Now, the federal government could still appeal the judge's decision. I did reach out to the Department of the Interior. I so far have not heard back from them on a response to the judge's decision. I did hear from the office of Mayor Sherelle Parker. She and her senior staff members are currently reviewing the court's decision, and we should have a statement from her shortly.
Now remember, Trump did the executive order because as he stated, that he wanted to get rid of any history or any depiction of that would divide America or any race-centered ideology. I don't understand. Now, you can tell me if I'm understanding it wrong, but I don't understand how having historical records, basically what they are, historical records of what happened, would be race-based ideology. It's history. History. I want to understand history. I want to understand our history. I want to understand United States history. And I think the only way for a country or people or anyone to move forward and grow is from understanding the past. But let's go over into this next video to see if they tell us any more details.
It is 8:14. Welcome back. A federal judge says the Trump administration must restore slavery-related exhibits at a national park in Philadelphia. The judge, who was appointed by George W. Bush, said The move was, quote, an attack on truth itself. However, President Trump said exhibits like that one bring a sense of national shame. Justice Department lawyers argue that the federal government has the right to express its views on such subjects.
So joining us now is our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes. This isn't just happening at this one spot in Philadelphia. This has kind of been happening at different national parks. So what do you make of this judge's ruling on this?
If you've been following at home, this is the writing was on the wall, pun intended. March 25th, President Trump signs an executive order stating that they want to look out and look for anti-American ideology at the Smithsonian. Trump condemns civil rights and slavery in August, criticizing it, calling it excessive on how bad all of these locations make slavery look. New York Times interview, he said after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, a lot of bad policies were created. And so this was just the next logical step after making statements like that and directing individuals to go and find things that he believes were anti-American. So, yeah,
that one statement he said, basically saying that that looks bad on American history, or looks bad on the American. Let's hear it one more time. One more time. That was powerful.
Trump condemns civil rights and slavery. And writing was on the wall, pun intended. March 25th, President Trump signs an executive order stating that they want to look out and look for anti-American ideology at the Smithsonian.
Anti-American ideology. So is the history of slavery anti-American ideology?
Trump condemns civil rights and slavery in August, criticizing it, calling it excessive on how bad all of these locations make slavery look. New York Times interview, he said after the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, a lot of bad policies were created. And so this was just the next logical step after making statements like that and directing individuals to go and find things that he believes were anti-American. So, yeah, this is happening in a number of places. Just here in Pennsylvania and in Philadelphia specifically, they decided to bring a lawsuit to stop that. And the judge listed a number of things. It's a 40-page opinion. Judge Roof said a couple of things. And two parts, I'd say. First, being from Philadelphia, love the fact that my city gets an opportunity to be mentioned here. But she says that it claims in regards that echoing Big Brother's domain in Orwell's 1984, that the government alone has the power to erase, alter, remove, and hide historical accounts on taxpayer and local government funded monuments within its control. And then at the end, she says it does not. So she lists out a number of Orwellian type of statements and then contradicts those statements that the government attempts to make by saying that, no, we have a checks and balances of the three co-equal branches, and you don't have the power alone to remove these things.
Khalif, the National Park Services, which is a federal agency, they've got, I guess, discretion, if you will, when it comes to interpretation of historical documents, exhibits, especially when it comes to something as sensitive as slavery, right? They're allowed a little leeway when it comes to discretion. Where's that fine line, though, between using discretion with something as sensitive as this and something that's unlawful?
I think the best way is looking at the judge's order. I say it all the time. Judges speak through their orders. So this is the best statement, and I have it bold here. As in, if the Ministry of Truth in Orwell's 1984 now existed with this model of ignorance is truth, the court is now asked to determine whether the federal government has the power it claims to disassemble and disassemble historical truths. So to alter, to remove, and to replace, those are what the judge is saying you don't have the power to do. Now, can you put something up there to be able to explain what you believe is different than what those reports are saying? But what you can't do is to remove it. What you can't do is say this can't be here, specifically things that Congress has funded to be there. And that's, I think, is going to be the larger issue. If Congress has appropriated funds for this to be built, and then you're saying now as the executive, I can just remove it, well, it undercuts the whole funding process from Congress, because then if one individual can say I can remove this, then the whole congressional funding process is irrelevant.
Where do you see this going? Do you see an appeal here?
Oh, most definitely. I
Okay.
mean, the Trump administration will ultimately appeal
What
this.
would that look like?
It would look like we have the authority, and this is the appeals are intentional. If I can get the Supreme Court to address this concern, it's what I've been saying since this Trump administration has taken place, that these are all attempts to try and to see how far the court will allow the executive branch to be stretched. And so if I have a lower court, it's a U.S. district court, but a lower court rule against me, that's what I want. I want to be able to go and appeal this to a court of appeals. And if they rule against me, even better, because now I can get this matter in front of the Supreme Court, and then it can be codified. It can go in front of the largest court, because now if they can say, I have the power to do this, no smaller court can say anything against that. So those have been the challenges throughout this administration, and successful. The Trump administration has lost on the lower court, kind of 50-50 in the middle in appeals, but at the Supreme Court level, they have been extremely successful at getting the executive branch's power to be expanded. And so I think this is another, I mean, if we're looking 2 or 3 years down the road, when it fully plays out, I think that's how it ends. But right now, this is an injunction. You guys know the standard: likelihood of success from the marriage, irreparable harm, balancing of the equities, public policy. This is an easy win in district court for an injunction. You can't fix money and say, hey, a kid didn't get to see that exhibit today, so hey, we got to put it up while we deal with the underlying issue. And that's what the judge said.
Crazy situation, y'all. Let's go over into the AI breakdown just to finish it up. Just giving a little bit more thoughts on it. So, as we know, on February 16th, a federal judge ordered the National Park Service to immediately restore the slavery exhibit at the presidential house site. So all 34 interpretation panels and video exhibits must be reinstalled in their original condition. Any removed items must be preserved and cannot be destroyed or damaged. The judge cited Orwell's 1984 in her opinion, stating that the government does not have the power to dismantle or disassemble historical truths. The Department of Interior filed an appeal on February 17th, arguing that they were in the process of installing an updated interpretive material before the court's intervention. So they're trying to say that they were already about to add something up there that basically updated the interpreted material. So this all stems from Executive Order 14253, titled Restoring Truth and Sanity to the American History. This March 2025 order directed federal agencies to review and remove content that administrators deemed divisive, race-centered ideology. And then the Secretary Order 3431, issued by the Interior Secretary Doug Burgum. This order implemented the executive mandate by instructing the National Park Service to remove interpretive material that inappropriately disparage Americans past or living. I don't know if that's inappropriately, but then it targeted historical reviews. So the administration specifically singled out the Independence National Historic Park for review ahead of the nation's 250th anniversary in 2026, aiming to pivot the focus towards the greatness achievement of the American people. So a Department of Interior spokesman stated that the goal was to ensure historical material aligned with the shared national value and address what the administration called a false revision of history. The city of Philadelphia successfully challenged the removal in court. Now, what are your thoughts, y'all? What are your thoughts? Do you think that having historical imagery and historical depictions of actual history of what slavery went through is divisive, and that we shouldn't have any of this stuff up there? That is how Trump called it. He called it that the awful things that happened during slavery is not what the American people are about. Which, of course, yes, it's been a long time since that has happened. A lot of people have changed. A lot of rules, a lot of laws have changed. But I still think that history needs to be preserved, and we need to still be looking and reviewing what has happened in the past so we can make better choices in the future. But tell me what your thoughts are, y'all. Tell me if you disagree with anything I said. Am I missing the point of it? Am I missing the point of Trump's executive order in the first place? But let me know your thoughts on that situation, y'all. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. It's a crazy world, but this is why we got to review this stuff together, y'all. This is why we have to review this stuff together. But that is it for the show today, y'all. A little longer than usual because we had to talk about Reverend Jesse Jackson's death. Still tragic situation. But like I always say, if you disagree with anything I said, please leave a comment. Let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion. I'm not going to say I know everything. I'm not going to say I'm always right. I might have misunderstood something in the video. So let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion. Now, remember, these videos will be broken down so you can go and look at them. But remember, y'all, to best show your support for the channel, all you got to do is hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and that's all I need. Now, thank y'all for watching. Thank you for watching now. Thank you for watching later. But that is it for the show today, y'all. You already know I got to play that outro, but we will be back tomorrow at 6. But that's it for now, y'all. Peace.